I should have walked away the second she said it. The way her voice slid past me like I wasn't even real, like I was just a shadow, something in the background, not worth making eye contact with. "There's no seat for you at the main table," my sister said without looking up, swirling champagne with her bridesmaids like some dollar store royalty. Then she pointed behind her without a hint of irony, toward a lonely plastic chair shoved against the wall by the kitchen doors. "Staff usually sits there." I didn't argue. Not then. But something cracked in me. "My name's Alex. I'm 30. I don't usually post on Reddit, but tonight I need to get this off my chest." This story didn't start at the wedding. It started way before that. But the wedding was where everything started to unravel, where the mask slipped, and where I stopped letting myself be treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the fixer, the quiet kid who handled things so my parents didn't have to. My sister, Lindsay, was the golden child, 2 years younger than me, and somehow always the center of attention. Whether she was winning something or throwing a tantrum, the spotlight found her. My parents used to joke, "Alex keeps the house running, but Lindsay lights it up." I used to laugh with them. I don't anymore. Our family wasn't rich, but we were comfortable. My dad worked in IT, and my mom taught middle school English. We lived in a modest house in the suburbs, had birthday dinners at Olive Garden, summer road trips to see relatives in Pennsylvania, that kind of thing. I wasn't bitter about it. I didn't need much. I liked fixing old computers, taking things apart, learning how they worked. I always figured if I stayed out of trouble and worked hard, things would balance out in the end. But here's the thing no one tells you about being the responsible sibling. Your effort becomes invisible. Your reliability turns into expectation. You do something right, and it vanishes into the background, like it was never hard in the first place. Meanwhile, Lindsay could forget to feed her goldfish for a week and somehow get praised for being so busy with cheerleading. I didn't resent her. Not really. Not until college. I got into a state school on a full scholarship, studied engineering. I kept my grades up, worked 2 campus jobs, and even built a small freelance side hustle fixing busted laptops for students and staff. Meanwhile, Lindsay barely scraped into a private university with laughable entry requirements, and my parents co-signed a bunch of loans to send her there. She switched majors 3 times, partied every other weekend, and when she failed 2 classes in her sophomore year, my mom called me crying because she just isn't motivated like you, Alex. That was the first time I said, maybe she's not motivated because you never make her face the consequences. My mom went silent on the phone. I remember that silence more than anything she's said since. Still, I stayed in my lane. Graduated. Got a job at a decent firm doing software engineering. Lived cheap, saved aggressively, started investing. I wasn't flashy about it, never have been, but I was building something. Something real. I kept it quiet from my family, though. I had learned early that sharing good news around Lindsay had a way of backfiring. When I bought my first condo at 26, I didn't tell them for a full month. When I did, the first thing my dad said was, "Wow, guess that engineering degree paid off." Then, after a pause, "You think Lindsay could crash with you for a bit? She just broke up with her boyfriend, and the lease is a mess." She ended up staying 6 months, rent-free, and when she moved out, she left her room a disaster. Dirty dishes, half-empty makeup bottles, a cracked mirror I still don't know how she broke. I didn't say anything. I just cleaned it up. That's what I did. That's what I always did. So when she got engaged, I was cautiously optimistic. Her fiancé, Eric, seemed decent enough. Kind of quiet, soft-spoken, a little too agreeable. But he treated her well, or so it seemed. The family made a big fuss over it. My mom hosted a huge engagement dinner. My dad gave a toast, and Lindsay basked in it like she was accepting a Grammy. I brought a bottle of wine and stayed out of the way. That's how I handled family events. I showed up, smiled, and counted down the minutes until I could go home. At some point during dessert, Lindsay turned to me and said, "You're gonna love the venue. It's stunning. Very exclusive. We're not doing a huge wedding, just close friends and family." Then she added, with a little smirk, "But no plus ones unless you're actually dating someone. No random guests." I wasn't even seeing anyone at the time, so I nodded and let it slide. But something about her tone, dismissive, almost smug, stuck with me. Then came the planning. Or rather, the deluge of group chats, spreadsheets, wish lists, and passive-aggressive texts from my mom about how it would mean the world if you could help your sister with the flower arrangements. Somehow, despite not being in the wedding party, I was roped into half the errands. Pick up custom napkins, drive across town to check out a bakery, rewire some lights in the reception hall because the planner was charging way too much. I didn't complain. Not really. But the night before the wedding, something shifted. We were at the rehearsal dinner. Everyone was drinking, laughing, taking selfies. Lindsay was in full bride mode, wearing a white cocktail dress like she was already walking down the aisle. She made a toast, thanked her bridesmaids, thanked our parents, thanked Eric's family. Then, turning to me, she raised her glass and said, "And of course, my big brother, who's been a total lifesaver. We should have made him the wedding planner, honestly." Everyone laughed. I smiled. But then she added, though we had to rein him in a bit, he wanted to add Ethernet ports to the venue. Such a tech nerd. Laughter again. Louder this time. I laughed too, but it felt hollow. The kind of laugh you give when you've been made into a joke in front of people who don't really know you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I had bent over backward for her, all the weekends I'd given up, the money I'd spent, the effort, and how it all amounted to a punchline at her dinner. Still, I told myself to let it go. It was her day. She was under stress. People say dumb things. Just get through the wedding and move on. Then came the wedding day. I showed up on time, wearing the suit I had tailored just for the occasion. I brought the projector Lindsay had asked me to set up for the slideshow, carried 3 boxes of wedding favors in from the car, helped Eric's uncle with the sound system. I was sweating before the ceremony even started, but I smiled through it. I smiled when Lindsay made a dramatic entrance. I smiled when the officiant flubbed Eric's name and everyone laughed. I smiled when our mom cried during the vows. Then came the reception. I walked in, looked for my name card at the main table, and didn't see it. "Hey," I said, tapping one of the bridesmaids. "Do you know where I'm sitting?" Lindsay overheard. She turned, eyes already glossed from champagne, and said, "Oh, right. There's no seat for you at the main table." I thought she was joking, but she didn't laugh. She didn't even look at me, just sipped her drink, pointed lazily toward the back of the room, and added, "Staff usually sits there. Plastic chair, by the kitchen doors." I stood there, holding the wedding gift I'd wrapped myself, a customized photo album with pictures from our childhood, printed on premium paper, with notes scribbled in the margins. It suddenly felt ridiculous, small, like a high school project no one asked for. I didn't argue. I just walked to the back. But something in me was done. Because the truth is, what no one in that room knew was that none of this would have been possible without me. The venue, the flowers, the designer dress, the custom cocktails. All of it was paid for by a check I'd written 6 months ago when Lindsay called me crying, saying the budget had fallen apart and she didn't want to look poor in front of Eric's family. My parents were tapped out. Eric's folks weren't helping. And she knew. She knew. I had the savings. So I gave it to her. No questions asked. No strings attached. Until now. Because as the lights dimmed and the MC grabbed the mic to kick off the evening, he said something that made the entire room pause. And now, before we dive into dinner and dancing, we want to give a very special thank you to the person who made this night possible. And that's when everything changed. You know that feeling when your face is hot, but your hands are cold? When you smile so hard your jaw aches, but your stomach feels like it's sinking in slow motion. That's what I felt as the MC said those words. We want to give a very special thank you to the person who made this night possible. Lindsay turned her head, eyebrows twitching just enough to register confusion. Eric looked up from his plate. My parents froze mid-conversation. And then it happened. My name lit up on the projector behind the MC in soft golden cursive. "Thank you, Alex." The applause came slow at first. A few polite claps. Then it grew. People turned to look around, trying to figure out who I was. The guy in the back. The one in the plastic chair next to a stack of folded linens. I raised a hand slightly, nodding once. Nothing dramatic. I wasn't about to stand and take a bow. But Lindsay's face, I'll never forget it. Her expression melted into something twisted, confused, betrayed. And under it all, a flash of something darker. Something entitled, like I'd stolen her thunder. The MC wrapped up the shout-out with a cheery, "Let's give it up for the best big brother in the world," and the DJ transitioned into the first dance track. As the music swelled, the lights came back on, and people started talking again. Laughing. Moving. I didn't move. I watched Lindsay stare at the projector like it had personally insulted her. She didn't come over. Not right away. Instead, her maid of honor, our cousin Haley, approached me during the salad course. You didn't tell anyone? She asked, leaning down. About the money? I shook my head. Didn't think I needed to. Haley's lips tightened. She's furious. Why? I asked. I didn't ask them to announce it. She thinks you're trying to upstage her, she whispered. I almost laughed. Upstage her? I'm sitting in the shadows next to the kitchen. Haley blinked. Yeah, that's a good point. Lindsay made her move during dessert. She didn't even say my name. She just walked up, heels clacking against the hardwood, and hissed through her teeth. What the hell was that? I looked at her, trying to stay calm. You mean the thank you? I didn't plan that. You told them. She snapped, eyes burning. You told the MC or the planner or someone. Don't play dumb. I stayed seated. I didn't. I'm not the one who printed it onto a slideshow. She looked like she wanted to scream, but couldn't risk making a scene. You're ruining my day. I stood slowly, placing my napkin on the chair. I didn't say anything. But maybe if you hadn't shoved me next to the dishwasher, people wouldn't be asking questions. You're unbelievable, she muttered. This was supposed to be my moment. And you made sure it was, I said. Every second of it. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't ask for thanks. I asked for a chair. You couldn't even give me that. She stared at me, unblinking. I'll fix the seating. Come sit at the main table. I raised an eyebrow. Now that everyone knows? She didn't answer. I didn't move. And from that point on, something in her shifted. I could see it. Her smile got faker. Her voice higher-pitched. The kind of strained performance that only people who need to be adored put on. I thought that was the worst of it. I really did. But I was wrong. Because the next morning, I woke up to a text from my mom. Just one sentence. Call me. Now. No punctuation. No emoji. That was how I knew it was serious. I sat up, heart pounding, and dialed her. She picked up on the first ring. Alex, what did you do? What are you talking about? I asked, already exhausted. Lindsay's in tears, she said. She says you tried to humiliate her. That you bribed the MC to announce your name like some kind of hero. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I didn't bribe anyone. I didn't tell anyone. And even if I had, what does it matter? I paid for the wedding, Mom. Every flower, every glass of champagne, every rented chair. She went quiet. I waited. Finally, she whispered, You didn't tell us that. Because I didn't want it to be about me, I said. I did it for Lindsay. I thought she'd appreciate it. She does, Mom said, but her voice sounded uncertain. No, she doesn't, I snapped. She stuck me at the back of the room like I was a busboy. She's just overwhelmed, Mom said. Weddings are stressful. I let out a breath. If I treated her the way she treats me, you'd never forgive me. Silence again. You're not wrong, Mom admitted, finally. But she's still your sister. I didn't respond. The next week was tense. Lindsay didn't thank me. Not once. Not a text. Not an email. Nothing. But what really got me, what broke me, was what happened 2 weeks later. I got a letter in the mail. Not a card. Not a thank you note. A legal letter. It was from a lawyer representing Lindsay and Eric. Some generic firm with a cheap logo and a lot of capital letters. The letter stated that Lindsay and Eric had reason to believe the financial contribution made by Mr. Alex, last name, was intended as a loan, not a gift. That unless I could provide written documentation to the contrary, they would assume the money was given with expectations and would be treating the funds as a loan under dispute. It said they were uncomfortable moving forward in their financial life with that uncertainty hanging over their heads and would be open to a mediated resolution. I reread it 3 times. My hands were shaking. I hadn't just been disrespected. I was being rewritten, erased, painted as the villain in a story where I was the only one who had stepped up. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I called my own lawyer. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. I gathered the receipts. The bank transfers. The emails. The text messages. Every piece of evidence showing that I had given the money freely and that she had begged for it. But as I was going through all that, something else hit me. Harder than anything. I found a text thread from 8 months ago. From when she first asked me for help. One message stood out. I know Mom and Dad can't help, and Eric's parents are strapped. You're doing great. I just need someone to believe in me. This is the biggest day of my life. And then, another one. Please don't tell anyone. I just want to feel like I did this on my own. I stared at that message for a long time. Because it wasn't just about money. It was about image. Reputation. Control. She didn't want people to know because she wanted the illusion that she had it all together, that she had pulled off the perfect wedding on her own, that she was the star. And I had shattered that. Accidentally. But I wasn't going to be shamed for helping her. I wasn't going to be erased. That letter was the breaking point. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. I didn't want revenge. Not in the petty sense. But I wanted the truth to come out. And once it did, I wanted to make sure she never had the power to rewrite me out of the story again. So I started preparing something. Something she wouldn't see coming. Something quiet. Surgical. But before I could finish it, something happened that blew the lid off everything. Something that changed how the whole family saw her. And it started with a phone call from Eric. One that would take this from personal to nuclear. The voicemail came on a Thursday night, just after 10 p.m. I almost didn't check it. I'd silenced my phone for the evening and was halfway through boiling water for pasta when I saw the missed call from Eric. I stared at the screen for a moment, confused. We'd barely ever spoken one-on-one. In fact, the last time we'd interacted was at the wedding, when he gave me an awkward side hug and thanked me for helping out with the tech stuff. The voicemail was short, just a few words, his voice low and shaky. Hey, Alex. I think we need to talk. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Can you call me back when you can? I let the water boil over before I moved. Something about the way he said it, like he'd uncovered something rotten, sent a chill down my spine. I didn't call him back that night. Instead, I sat on my couch, phone resting on the coffee table, and just stared at the wall while the hum of my air conditioner filled the silence. I'd been so locked in on protecting myself, gathering receipts, drafting timelines for my lawyer, that I hadn't thought about what might be happening inside their marriage. I'd assumed Eric was just another extension of Lindsay, complicit, silent, entitled by proximity. But that voicemail cracked something open. The next morning, I called him. Hello. His voice was groggy, like he hadn't slept. It's Alex. Oh yeah? Thanks for calling back. There was a pause. Then he said it. I saw the letter. I didn't say anything. I waited. She didn't tell me she was sending it, he added. She asked me to sign some documents a few days ago. Said it was a prenup clarification thing. I trusted her. My stomach turned. I asked her about it last night. She broke down crying. Said you were trying to steal attention. That you were manipulating everyone. That you only helped because you wanted something in return. I closed my eyes. I didn't believe her, he said, voice quieter. Because I found the texts. From before the wedding. The ones where she begged you. Where she promised it was just between you two. Still, I said nothing. I wanted him to keep talking. I'm sorry, Eric continued. I didn't know. I swear. And I wanted to tell you something. Off the record. She's been like this since we got engaged. Obsessed with how things look. The image. Not the reality. She kept saying this wedding had to be perfect because it was the first time her parents actually paid attention to her again. I frowned. What do you mean again? He sighed. Apparently when you bought your condo, it was all your mom and dad talked about for months. How proud they were. How you were doing everything right. She said she felt invisible. Like she was losing her spot. That hit harder than I expected. Because I remembered that time. I remembered my mom calling me after I closed on the place, telling me how proud she was, how grown up I sounded. I'd brushed it off as just a nice compliment. I didn't realize Lindsay had internalized it as a threat. She wants to win, Eric said, even if no one's keeping score. I let out a breath. So what are you going to do? Another pause. I don't know, he admitted. But I thought you should know the truth. I'm sorry she turned on you. You didn't deserve that. We hung up after a few more words, stilted, awkward, but it left me with something I hadn't felt in weeks, validation. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't imagined the shift in her. The entitlement. The bitterness. Someone else saw it. Someone inside her life. But that didn't change the fact that the damage had already been done. The letter was still real. The tension with my parents was still simmering. Lindsay had already spread her version of events to half the extended family, and the silence from most of them was deafening. I got one vague text from my aunt a few days later that said, "Hope everything's okay between you and Lynn's red heart," which only made me want to throw my phone out the window. I felt isolated, angry, and worst of all, tired. For a couple of weeks, I went quiet. Didn't reply to texts. Stopped answering calls. I ghosted a few friends I normally played chess with on Saturdays. I even skipped work a few times, calling in sick when really I just couldn't bring myself to open my laptop. It wasn't just about Lindsay. It was the years of bending, stretching, shrinking myself for the sake of keeping the peace. And for what? So I could be smeared as the villain the moment I stopped playing along? I hit a low I hadn't hit in years. My condo felt too quiet. My thoughts too loud. I started wondering if I really had done something wrong. Maybe I had made her feel small. Maybe that's why she lashed out. Maybe. No, I caught myself. That's how people like her win. They spin you in circles until you start questioning your own reality. So I made a decision. If I was going to be painted as the bad guy anyway, I might as well stop living like a ghost. I started small. I got my hair cut. Not a trim, an actual style. Something sharper. Something I wouldn't have had the confidence to wear before. I hit the gym, not out of spite, but because I needed to move. To sweat. To stop thinking. I dug out an old passion project I'd abandoned the year before, a budgeting app I'd coded on weekends, and started rewriting it from scratch. Cleaner interface. Smarter backend. Within a month, I was in a groove. Not just surviving. Building. I posted the app on a few niche forums. A couple finance subreddits. Just for feedback. But to my surprise, people liked it. A lot. I got DMs asking if I'd consider making a paid version. A few weeks later, a small personal finance blog featured it in an article called 5 Tools That'll Make You Feel in Control Again. Downloads spiked. I added premium features. And for the first time since college, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Pride. Not for being useful, or reliable, or the responsible one. Pride for doing something that mattered to me. Meanwhile, Lindsay was imploding. Eric didn't give me the details, but word got around. A few family members started reaching out again, asking questions, poking around, trying to check in under the guise of small talk. I didn't indulge them, but I noticed the shift. The whispers. The way some of them started treating me with cautious politeness again, like they'd realized maybe they'd backed the wrong horse. One day, I got a call from my dad. No text first. No warning. Just a call. I almost let it ring out. But something told me to pick up. Hey, I answered. Alex, he said, voice stiff. Do you have a minute? Sure. He cleared his throat. Your mom and I have been talking. We're sorry about what happened. With the wedding. With everything. I waited. We didn't realize how bad it had gotten, he continued. We thought Lindsay was just stressed. We didn't know about the letter until after she sent it. I kept my voice calm. And what do you think now? Another pause. I think you've always been there for this family, he said. And we didn't always show you that we saw it. That hit me. Because my dad wasn't the kind of man to apologize easily. He wasn't cruel, but he was old school. Stoic. A deal with it and move on kind of guy. Hearing that from him cracked something loose inside me. Thanks, I said quiet. We'd like to come by sometime, he added. See your place. Really see it. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, that'd be good. After we hung up, I sat there in silence for a while. Not happy, not triumphant, just grounded. I'd spent so long chasing their approval, trying to keep everything running, thinking if I just gave enough, worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, they'd notice. But it wasn't until I stopped trying, until I focused on myself, that they finally did. And that was just the beginning. Because while Lindsay thought she'd buried me with that letter, she'd only planted the seed. And what I had planned next was going to be something she'd never see coming. A funny thing happens when people stop seeing you as the family doormat. They start watching you. Carefully. Nervously. Like they're not sure what you'll do next. Like you might suddenly grow teeth. After that call with my dad, the air shifted. I wasn't invisible Alex anymore. I was a question mark. A variable. A potential threat in a story where everyone had already cast their roles, and mine was supposed to be quiet, dependable, and harmless. But I had rewritten that script, and Lindsay could feel it. She didn't reach out directly. Of course not. That wasn't her style. Instead, she used our mom as a messenger. A peacekeeper. A buffer between her ego and the possibility of owning up to anything. She wants to talk, my mom said one afternoon, her voice brittle on the phone. Not about the money. Just everything. She misses her brother. I sat on my balcony, letting the early spring breeze run through my hair, watching the sun slip behind my condo building's rooftop. I'd just come back from a meeting with a small angel investor who was interested in scaling my app. Nothing massive, but enough to start thinking about hiring a second dev. My life was blooming, and now here was my sister's shadow creeping back in. She misses me? I said slowly. Interesting. She sent lawyers before words. She panicked, Mom said, sighing. She thought you were trying to take credit for her wedding. I paid for her wedding, I replied, voice flat. She thought I was trying to steal the spotlight because she'd rather invent a villain than admit she needed help. I'm not defending her, Mom said quickly. I don't want this family falling apart. Too late for that, I thought. But I didn't say it. Instead, I gave her what she wanted. Tell her I'll meet, I said. Neutral ground. Somewhere public. Mom exhaled, clearly relieved. That's good. That's really good. But I want you and Dad there, I added. No more private corners. No more twisted narratives. If we're doing this, it's with witnesses. Mom hesitated. Then, okay, I'll set it up. We met at a quiet Italian restaurant 2 towns over. Neutral territory, like I said. A place with cloth napkins and low lighting and no chance of anyone making a scene. I showed up 10 minutes early, as usual. Ordered a coffee, sat by the window, and waited. They arrived as a group. Lindsay leading the pack, dressed like she was doing damage control for a fashion blog. Oversized sunglasses, high-waisted beige trousers, a blazer that probably cost more than my old car. Eric trailed behind her like a nervous dog. My parents brought up the rear. She took off her sunglasses as she sat down, and for a moment, I thought I saw something real flicker behind her eyes. Not guilt, not remorse, just uncertainty. Hey, she said softly. Hey, I replied. The silence stretched. My dad cleared his throat. So, Lindsay began, smoothing her blazer. I wanted to talk. Face to face. I feel like things got out of hand. I waited. She glanced at Eric, then back to me. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I felt so much pressure. With the wedding. With expectations. Everyone kept asking how we were pulling it off. I got scared people would think we were mooching off you. But you were, I said. Calm. Controlled. She blinked. I know. But I didn't want it to look that way. My dad shifted uncomfortably. My mom said nothing. You asked me to keep it quiet, I said. And I did. You told me you wanted it to feel like you'd earned it, and I respected that. But then you shoved me to the sidelines and treated me like help. That wasn't, she started. It was, I cut in. You don't get to rewrite it. Eric looked down at his hands. Lindsay folded her arms. I was embarrassed, she said finally. I didn't want people to think I needed my big brother to bail me out again. I tilted my head. When exactly was the first time I bailed you out? You make it sound like a pattern. Her face flushed. College. Rent. That time I stayed at your place. I laughed, sharp and humorless. You mean the time you trashed my guest room and left without saying thank you? She looked away. I leaned forward, my voice dropping. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to get an apology. I just want to make something clear. I'm done playing the quiet support act in the Lindsay show. My mom started to say something, but I held up a hand. I'm not cutting you off, I added. But I am setting boundaries. No more favors. No more secret bailouts. And if you ever try to weaponize a lawyer against me again, we're done. Lindsay opened her mouth, closed it, and for the first time, I saw something new on her face. Fear. Not of me. Of losing control. The meeting ended in uneasy silence. No hugs. No resolution. Just nods and murmurs and a quiet understanding that the balance of power had shifted. And that's when I started planning. Not revenge in the traditional sense. I wasn't looking to destroy her life. But I wanted something better. A reckoning. A moment where she'd be forced to sit in the truth, my truth, for once. Not her version. Not her spin. The real story, told where it mattered most. And I knew exactly when it would happen. You see, my parents had an anniversary coming up. Their 35th. Lindsay, in one of her more recent text messages to Mom, had offered to host the party. She wanted it to be classy. Sophisticated. Like a mini wedding, but less pressure. Mom had gushed about it to me on the phone. She's really stepping up, she said. Trying to make things right. I said nothing at the time, but a plan started forming. I reached out to a few of my parents' oldest friends. A couple aunts and uncles. People who still saw me as the tech-savvy, quiet one, and didn't know much about the wedding fallout. I offered to help coordinate the AV setup for the party, photos, video messages, a highlight reel. Everyone loved the idea. Then I reached out to Eric. He didn't hesitate. I'm in, he said. Whatever you need. We met for coffee 2 weeks before the party. He looked worse for wear. Pale, jittery, like someone who'd been sleeping with one eye open. But he was clear-headed. She doesn't know I'm helping you, he said. And if she finds out, she won't, I promised. We made a list. Photos, screenshots, messages. Not malicious. Not cruel, just truthful. I crafted a short, tasteful video, a timeline, really, showing my parents' journey through the years. Milestones, family moments, achievements. Sprinkled in were quiet nods to the people who'd helped behind the scenes. One slide read, "To those who lifted others without ever asking for credit." Then a series of photos. Me helping Dad patch the roof. Me setting up Mom's new laptop. Me holding a baby Lindsay at her first birthday party. No voiceover. No name tags. Just images. But the final frame said it all. Some heroes don't need a spotlight. But sometimes they deserve one anyway. Cue soft music. Fade out. I didn't sign it. I didn't announce it was mine. But people would know. And Lindsay? She'd know most of all. Because for once, I wasn't trying to disappear. I wasn't downplaying my role. I was standing in it. Calm, clear, and unbothered by her reaction. The night of the party, I stood in the back, drink in hand, watching her flutter around in a fitted navy dress, laughing too loudly, greeting guests like a politician. Eric stood beside me. "She thinks she's running this," he muttered. I smiled. "Let her." That makes the moment hit harder. He looked at me, curious. "You sure this isn't petty?" I shook my head. It's not about pettiness. It's about balance. Because the thing about truth, it doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be heard once. And in about 15 minutes, it would be. The party started just as you'd expect. Fake smiles, modest wine, and half-hearted toasts recycled from years past. It was held in a rented garden hall with string lights draped across exposed beams, glass lanterns lining the walkway, and those overpriced grazing tables Lindsay loved to brag about. Her fingerprints were on everything, from the color-coded seating chart to the gold foil napkins printed with cheers to 35 years. And sure, the guests were impressed. She floated through the room like a politician on election night, air-kissing cheeks and accepting compliments like she'd cooked every canopy by hand. My mom beamed, soaking in the attention. My dad wore the same stiff smile he always did during family events, holding a tumbler of something brown and quiet. I stayed in the back. I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted her to feel it when it turned on someone else. As the evening wore on, Lindsay began orbiting closer and closer to the AV table, probably making sure everything was in place. She gave me a tight-lipped smile when she passed, the kind you give a coworker you're trying not to fight with at the holiday party. I gave her a nod and kept typing, adjusting the final cues. Eric stood nearby, pretending to check his phone. He'd been tense all evening, ever since we arrived separately and played our parts. But now he was watching her. Closely. "Showtime in 10, I murmured to him. He just nodded. At exactly 8 p.m., the lights dimmed slightly. A gentle clinking of glasses brought everyone's attention to the projector screen hanging above the head table. Lindsay stood at the front, mic in hand, ready to introduce this special surprise video. She thought it was a montage she had approved, edited by one of her friends from work. Something generic, safe, and flattering. Something that reflected her taste. But I had gotten there first. She smiled at the room. "I just want to take a moment to celebrate the best parents in the world. Everything I know about love, commitment, and family, I learned from them. This is a small tribute. Enjoy." She nodded to me, giving the go-ahead. I pressed play. Soft music swelled. Familiar photos faded in. Mom and Dad in their wedding outfits, holding baby Lindsay. Then came a slide from their first house. Peeling paint. Dad shirtless on a ladder while I stood at the base holding a bucket, maybe 10 years old. A few guests chuckled. Then more pictures. Me fixing the fence at 17, setting up a Christmas tree while Lindsay sat on the couch texting, me adjusting Mom's Wi-Fi router during her online teaching days. The music shifted to something warmer. The slideshow rolled through holidays, birthdays, and blurry candids of me holding the camera. Always in the background. Always helping. Then came the text slide. To the ones who give quietly. Who carry the weight without asking for thanks. Lindsay shifted. Her smile faltered. The next few slides were subtle. A photo of me handing Mom a wrapped gift on her 50th. A screenshot of a bank transfer labeled Wedding Venue. Alex, with the amount blurred just enough to raise eyebrows. A still from the wedding itself. Me, behind the projector, setting up equipment while the bridesmaids posed for photos. Then came the final frame. Just text, in gold script on a black background. Some people build the stage. Others take the bow. Tonight, we thank the one who built it. Then, silence. For 3 full seconds, not a single person moved. Then someone clapped. Just one. I think it was Aunt Marcy. Then another. And suddenly the room erupted. The applause was thunderous. Genuine. People turned to look around, trying to spot me. I didn't stand. I didn't wave. I just sat there, still, letting it happen. Lindsay was frozen. Her cheeks were pale. Her hands gripped the mic like it might run away. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Mom stood up, dabbing her eyes. She walked straight across the room and hugged me. Tight, like she hadn't hugged me in years. Then Dad followed. He didn't say anything, but he clapped me on the back twice. And in that moment, I realized something. This was never about humiliating her. It was about reclaiming my place. But Lindsay, she couldn't handle it. The second the attention shifted, she panicked. She whispered something to Eric, who just shook his head. That set her off. I didn't hear what she said, but I saw the venom in her face. And then, in front of everyone, she stormed off the stage. People glanced around uncomfortably. My mom tried to smooth things over by proposing a toast. The party carried on, awkwardly at first, then with increasing warmth as the open bar worked its magic. But the damage was done. She'd made her choice, attention or dignity. She couldn't have both. Eric found me near the back patio an hour later. He looked lighter somehow, like someone who had been holding their breath for too long and had finally exhaled. She cornered me in the car, he said. Said I betrayed her. That I let you steal her moment again. I raised an eyebrow. Did you? I don't think so, he said. But even if I did, I'm not sorry. We stood there a while, watching fireflies blink in the trees. She's not gonna forgive this, he added. I shrugged. That's not up to me. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. You know, I used to think she was the strong one. Loud, confident, certain. But it takes a different kind of strength to be quiet and still make a difference. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. A few weeks passed. Lindsay went dark. No calls. No texts. She didn't return my mom's messages. Eric moved into a short-term rental. He said it was temporary, but I knew better. He'd seen her without the filters now. Seen what it cost to stay in her orbit. Word got around. Extended family started reaching out again. Curious, nosy, trying to figure out what happened. I kept it vague. Let the slideshow speak for itself. I didn't need to retell the story. I didn't need to fight anymore. The truth had done the job. Mom invited me over for dinner one night. Just the two of us. She cooked my favorite, chicken parmesan, even though I hadn't asked. Halfway through the meal, she put her fork down and said, I watched the video again. I looked up. I didn't realize, she whispered, how much you were there. All those years. All those moments. I didn't respond. Because what do you say to that? I'm sorry, she said. And for once, I believed her. After dinner, I went home to my condo. My space, my rules, my life. I watered my plants. Checked on my app metrics. Sales were up again. A small finance YouTuber had just featured it in a video. My inbox was flooded with questions, compliments, collaboration offers. I sat on my couch, feet up, and let the silence settle around me. For years, I thought being the strong one meant being the quiet one. The helper. The background character in someone else's story. But now I knew better. Strength isn't silence. It's truth. It's knowing when to step back and when to step forward. It's knowing your worth, even if no one claps for you. Especially then. Lindsay never apologized. Not really. But she didn't need to. Her absence was apology enough. Her silence, finally, was honest. And I didn't need her spotlight. I'd built my own.